Welcome back to Startup or Shut Up, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs who are rewriting the rules of business. I'm your host, Colin Fraley, founder of Peer Founder, the community hub for entrepreneurs to connect, learn, and raise the capital they need to launch their big ideas. Today's guest is someone who has spent more than 25 years shaping industries, building companies, and inspiring leaders. Rob Finlay isn't just part of the commercial real estate conversation. He's been a driving force, pioneering debt optimization strategies, scaling and exiting multiple businesses, and becoming a trusted advisor for billion-dollar transactions. But Rob's story doesn't stop there. He's also a best-selling author, a father of four, and deeply involved in sustainable agriculture. From the boardroom to the farm, Rob is building legacies that outlast any market cycle. We're going to talk about his entrepreneurial journey, his shut up moment, his books, and what's next on his horizon. Let's jump in. Rob, welcome to the show of Startup or Shut Up. Rob, you're an entrepreneur. You've built and exited 4 different companies over the 25 plus years. What was that first spark that pushed you toward entrepreneurship instead of a more traditional path?
I think there were a couple things. One is I come from a long lineage of entrepreneurs. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur. You sort of get that in your blood, and you almost think like that's normal. Like working a regular job for somebody else doesn't really quite fit. And I think, but the spark for me to be an entrepreneur was really one where it didn't seem like I was thinking. It was just sort of, it happened, right? I saw it, I saw an opportunity, and I didn't question why to do it. I just did it. At the time though, and it was remarkable. I left the job at Wall Street. I had 4 kids, or maybe 3 kids, one on the way. But, I was a young father, and having all the obligations. And at that stage in my life, it's you have bills to pay, you have schools to pay for, you got all this other stuff that you have to do. Risking it all to start a business that any sane person realizes that businesses often fail, wouldn't do it. But for something, I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it, and that was it.
Yeah, cool. And remind me, what was your first business that you ended up starting?
So the first business is a business that I own today. It's called Defease with Ease. It is a company provides a very specific advice and advisory to commercial real estate borrowers. And I started the business in 2000, ended up selling it in 2000, and then buying the company back, a part of it back later on in about 2010 or 12, and then bought the whole company back a few years after that.
That's quite interesting. Can we dive a little bit deeper into what ended up occurring when you selling and then buying it back?
Sure. So all you have to do is look at history. So when I sold, was basically in 2006, was basically the year before the great financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Our business, as I mentioned, it provides a very specific and esoteric piece of advice to commercial real estate borrowers. From 2000 to 2006, the market was going great. People were utilizing our services. We were making lots of money. Big private equity firm came in, bought us. Well, everybody knows what happened. 2007, 2008, the market dropped. And so we went from doing 3,000 transactions a year to maybe 5 or 6. And so, and that lasted for a while, right? So, that's a tough time. And so a business has to be able to reinvent itself, and they have to be able um, to do things that aren't necessarily by the playbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't learn that kind of stuff in college or grad school, right? It's when this happens, you've got to be able to react. And so I loved the team that I built, and it just so happened that during that time after I sold, I built another company and it ended up selling that as well. But it's just one of those things where you always have to stay flexible
Mm-hmm.
and be observant to what's going around you and the opportunities.
Cool. Thank you for that. I think the listeners will be will align very much with that because of just the ups and downs of starting a business.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and one of the things, Colin, sorry not to interrupt you, but one of the things that people don't really understand, is as an entrepreneur, one of the hardest things is not necessarily starting a business,
mhm.
but it's exiting a business.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't pay attention to that. And that's one of the things that's really, I was asked recently, it's like, when were you have you ever been depressed? Have you ever really sort of wondered what you're doing in life? Right. And I said, yeah. I said, actually, one of the most difficult times in my life was when I sold my first business. And it was because I put everything into this business,
Hmm.
had a bunch of money, didn't need to work again, but it was what defined me. And so it really became that almost midlife crisis. But I was 35 years old. So,
Hmm.
anyways,
Yeah, definitely. Because I think a lot of people they just really grab hold of that business and they don't see and look ahead of that opportunity to start something else and utilize those skills that they already learned and taking that high point to sell and to be able to move on with their life and discover something new. So thank you for bringing that up. Um, and also looking at your earliest ventures, what lessons did you learn that still guide your decision making today?
that's a tough one. I've changed, right? As you grow and you evolve, it becomes different, right? So the lessons that I learned early on in the business is to really know what I was talking about. Really stand behind the customer. Really stand behind the employees, the business. Understanding who my customer is. A lot of people when you start out on business and you start and you look at master classes and stuff like that and a lot of it is on who's your customer, and a lot of entrepreneurs believe that their customer is that person who's buying their service, but that's just one of them, right? The
Hmm.
customer for me was my employee.
Hmm.
Customer was my best vendors, my customer was my bank, all of these people. And so learning that my customer was greater than just that person that people think is my customer was a something that I've learned and I've kept with it all these years, and it served me very well.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's really awesome because they're your partner in order to help support your business, right? In order to help grow.
Absolutely,
So,
and just like a customer, like you're trying to sell to buy your widget, right? You're trying to sell a bank that you're doing so great that you don't
mhm,
need their money when you really do, or you're selling that vendor that you've got hundreds of other options when you don't, right? And the employees that you're selling them that that hey, come work for me because this is going to be a great place and this is great. So understanding the wants, needs, and fears of everybody that surrounds you will help you make your decisions and help you operate within any business environment.
awesome. Thank you for that. And then what's been your process for spotting opportunities in markets that others overlook?
Being observant, right? You've got to, and that's one of the great things about being an entrepreneur, right? You can go in and see. There's very few people that come up with this aha original idea, right?
Hmm.
I didn't come up with SpaceX or any of the social media, anything like that. But most entrepreneurs don't. What entrepreneurs do is they figure out what they can do that's different or better, special than somebody else. And so being observant, being able to apply things from different industries into your business is what makes you successful. And so to be very successful as an entrepreneur, you have to be observant. Stay out of your phone and look around you, right? You go watch everything from I mentioned in one of my books, I think I wrote about Jersey Mike's. I love the experience, the app experience at Jersey Mike's because it does a pre-order for me, right? And so when I went to go do one of my businesses that required an app, I tried to apply some of those things into the app, right? So it's just being observant, it's just learning and seeing how others do things.
Totally. It's like not reinventing the wheel and just grabbing different things from different businesses in order to kind of create a awesome business that people would want. And that's like,
Absolutely.
I never even thought about that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely, and that comes down to being observant, like, just walk around, like, look, watch where other organizations do it and being able to pull them out, and it doesn't matter, you could be at Home Depot, you could be at Lowe's, you could be at 1-800 phone number, and you're listening to the way that their customer service rep works. That's being observant. Another thing too, which a lot of people I don't do nearly as much as I used to, listen to salespeople. People would call and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this." And I would listen to them because sometimes they come in with new ideas that
Mm,
you don't think about, or a way that they're selling is very good.
interesting. Interesting. So take that call,
Yeah,
essentially.
I don't anymore. Now it's which LinkedIn. It's like every time LinkedIn they're like, "Hey, Rob, we see we have a lot of similar interests." I'm like, "Well, how can we have similar interests?" I don't think so, but okay.
If you made it this far into the episode, take a quick second to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend who'd love real founder stories. Every follow and share helps us grow and bring you even better episodes in the future. Thanks for being part of Startup or Shut Up. That's funny. I'm constantly being targeted on LinkedIn because of my startups. It's
Yeah.
kind of hilarious. How do you personally define your success across your career? Is it exits, impact, freedom, or something else?
No, it's actually, it's the way that people feel when I've been in their life. So for that matter, when I get a letter from one of my early employees in one of my companies, we exited, it gave him enough money to retire. And it's almost every year, um, maybe it hasn't been every year now, but every year he would send me a letter on the anniversary of our sale and say, thank you so much for what you've done to my life.
That's so cool.
And that to me means more than anything else. There's nothing, no cars, no nothing can come close to that. Or the fact that I still have 5 of my original people, my original hires that still work with me. So these are things that are important to me, or I have clients who remember working with me for years. That's how I judge success. I don't think it's not fair right now to think about dollars and cents. It's just, how did I impact the people around?
Wow. That's very impactful. That's great advice. And we're going to circle back to kind of like as well, because you brought that up. Many entrepreneurs struggle to let go after scaling something. How do you know when it's time to exit versus double down and grow the business?
To thine own self be true. Shakespeare was right at it, right? Really good entrepreneurs are really good entrepreneurs and they suck at running businesses. Pure and simple, right? Just bottom line. Don't kid yourself, right? If you look at some of these great startups and these great business successes, come on. You think Steve Jobs was a great businessman? No, he was a great visionary,
Mhm.
an entrepreneur. He had great skills, but not going to run a business. It's Zuckerberg. Look at all these guys. I mean, you go through the whole list. To thine own self be true. If you have built the company up to a point where you can support financially and see value in somebody in operations who's going to take and scale and grow that business, do it. Right? It's not about ego anymore, right? It's
Mhm.
doing what you're good at. Aces in their places is another great expression, right? Go, you're a good entrepreneur. Stay there. Stay in your lane.
Cool. Yeah, because one thing that I've been hearing over and over is, the entrepreneur that starts that business has to be really good at building that really strong team of the smart people and surround themselves with smart people and give them the trust in order to run that business and give them that opportunity and not be this person that's just a micromanager because they're going to have different ideas and they're just really wanting to grow, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes down to, Colin, where you are in the stage of yourself and your employees. And I think, I think this is where entrepreneurs, especially if you do it multiple times, or business people in general, they are like coaches. And I use the analogy, I love football. And I use the analogy, like when I first started my first business, I was 30 years old, 29 years old. My employees were 25 to 28 years old, right? And so my management style, my coaching style was probably very much like a high school football coach or a college football coach, right? Where I'm all in it, everything they do. But as I've developed and I've grown older and the people I've hired have grown older and have been coming from different backgrounds. They didn't just come from college or their first job. They have experience. I now look and say, okay, I'm going to hire smart people. I'm going to let them do their job. Just like a professional coach in football, you hire Tom Brady, let Tom Brady do his job, right? You're not going to help him go, let him do his job. And that's what a good entrepreneur, a good leader is going to surround themselves with great people and let them do their job. Let them be the success.
Totally. That's very insightful. Okay, so let's jump over to commercial real estate because you're a jack of all trades and your entrepreneur history is pretty awesome. So you've been called a pioneer in commercial real estate debt optimization strategies. For those listening who aren't deep in the industry, can you break down what commercial real estate is, number one? and then also the debt optimization strategies in plain English.
Yeah, sure. Well, it sounds like really boring stuff. So commercial real estate is anything that's out there, right? I mean, it's everything but a single family home, right? So
Okay.
commercial real estate is real estate. So it could be apartment buildings, could be office buildings. Those are big industrial buildings. It's where you shop. It's where yeah, warehouses. Everything in between is commercial real estate. Thing that's not commercial real estate is your house. So when you think about commercial real estate, and commercial real estate is a massive industry, and commercial real estate is a wonderful business. It's a wonderful investment. I highly recommend people investing in it, either actively or passively, and just because of all of the benefit that it drives. That being said, where we get into debt optimization and where we focus on as an industry or a business is debt is one of the largest components of a capital stack. So a capital stack is you buy a building for $100,000 and you get $80,000 worth of debt and $20,000 of equity. The 80 and the 20 are your capital stack. Well, 80,000 is obviously bigger than 20,000. So that's a big component of your capital stack. So debt optimization is basically we help borrowers and owners of commercial real estate manage that debt and use that debt to achieve better financial results, better IRRs, better equity multiples, faster time to promote. All these things are very specific. But basically, bottom line, the listener needs to know we help them make more money faster. And we also do that with not by taking more risk, but actually being risk adverse and helping the borrower understand the risk associated. So we're really a risk management company associated
Interesting.
with that.
And what's the difference between me being who I am and I'm looking to buy a single family home and then trying to transition over into commercial real estate? What's the big differences and the similarities between the two?
You buy residential real estate with your heart and you buy commercial real estate with your head. You should. I would say that's always true, right? Right. If you buy maybe the best purchase for you from for a home, maybe the one that makes the most financial sense or whatever, isn't really where you want to live, right? You spend a lot of time at home. So
Hmm.
buy what you want, live where you want, do what you can do to afford it. Cause that's at the end of the day, it's market driven, but it's not. And I know this is unpopular, but it's not really an investment. Live where you want to live. And because if you have to sell it, you have to sell it, right? If you get a new job in somewhere else, say you're in Chicago and you get a job in New York, well, guess what? You have an apartment or a condo in Chicago, you got to sell it. So you've got to. So why you doing that? Go where you want to live, love it, own it. It's just what you want. It's everything you want, and that's how most people buy their home. I want a split. I want a colonial. I want contemporary. Right. Whereas commercial is purely does it make economic sense? Will I get return off of this? Will I get cash flow from this? Can I get the investors to do it? Right. Because commercial real estate is also an industry that's built on other people's money.
Hmm.
Right? So as a real estate company, you're almost very much like a private equity firm or a venture capital firm where you use other people's money to go and buy these buildings and these apartment complexes and so on, and you manage them and run them. And then when they're successful, everybody makes money. When they're not successful, everybody loses money. Some people lose more than others.
Got it. So what you're talking about as far as strategy is someone who goes in who's a commercial real estate expert essentially, who really knows the industry, goes around and collects a whole bunch of investor money, pulls it together, and then presents that value as well of that specific building, and then buys that building with the utilization of everyone's funds.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
And you made the operative word, right? Somebody who really knows what they're doing. And that's where the investor has to be very, very aware. Does the person that they're giving their money to, do they really know what they're talking about? Or do they have a great TikTok page? Or
Mm-hmm.
do they have the flash in the show, right? It's all about, in many cases it's about perception. But really good investors have to look, peel behind the onion and look and really understand the business. This is truly a buyer because it's all private investments typically. Yeah, it's buyer beware. Got to be careful.
Totally. Totally. Thank you for that. And then the commercial real estate market is under a lot of pressure with interest rates right now, and then also hybrid work, right? Where do you see the biggest risk and opportunities right now?
I think a lot of real estate has opportunity right now, right? So that's the thing with real estate. It all comes down to um, why people are saying commercial real estate is tough right now is probably the ones who bought at the peak of the market, right? So come back. Real estate's cyclical, right? It's just like our economy, it's cyclical. So if you buy up at the peak of the market and it goes down, well, yeah, it sucks. It's bad, right? But if
Hmm.
you buy down, then it's a good thing, right? So I think that's the way to look at it. So I think there's if the numbers make economic sense right now, real estate makes sense.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
what and that's the challenge, right? Interest rates are higher than they were a few years ago, but they're not higher than historical norms, right? So it's just we're just short sighted.
Like, yeah, there seems like a lot of commercial real estate is on a discount right now. So it seems like a lot of opportunity if someone wanted to get into that market and start buying up because, eventually it's going to come back even more and it already is, right?
Yep. And that's where being a real estate person is just like being an entrepreneur, right? And you can start small, right? You can, I think the analogy, right? So, we use the word solo entrepreneur or
Hmm.
whatever the term is today, well, that's like somebody going out and buying, hey, I'm just going to go buy another apartment or build a house and I'm going to put it on Airbnb. That's an entrepreneur, right? You're
Hmm.
doing right. You are doing exactly what you need to do. And maybe, hey, I know people like experiences. So I'm going to make my Airbnb special because I'm going to do this experience, right? That's being an
Totally.
entrepreneur. And that's a great way to do it because you're building up tremendous asset value. Whereas starting a business, a lot of the asset value is really you and what you're building, right? It's
Hmm.
that enterprise value. That doesn't come along as easily as buying a building and having that.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, and you're talking about something small, so I want to dive into that a little bit more. If a young entrepreneur was listening and wanted to enter commercial real estate today, what advice would you give them about starting small but thinking big?
I think it's starting small so that you can actually do it.
Hmm.
Right? I think the term that I hate is wantrepreneur, right? It's the person who sort of wants to do it, but will find every excuse not to do
Hmm.
it, right? And that to me is that's I don't know if that really is an entrepreneur, right? It's somebody who wants a bunch of money to be given to them before they start their business. Like
Hmm.
that to me is great if you can get it, but quite frankly, it doesn't always happen. And so starting small, having success, right? Being an entrepreneur, no matter if you're in real estate or software or asset management or financial services. Being an entrepreneur is about celebrating small wins. First of all, having wins, right?
Hmm.
Having small wins and compounding off of those wins. And so going into it, you don't need to go buy a big apartment complex for your first buy. That's
Hmm.
stupid, right? I
Hmm.
mean, that's like saying, hey, I'm just going to go out and buy a big operating company that I know nothing about. So
Totally.
start small, but the nice thing about it is once you start learning, the commercial real estate is not a difficult industry, right? So once you get in there and you start doing it, you'll start to realize like, hey, yeah, it's all about the same thing. Finding good property in a good market that's valued properly, that you can get income, that income makes more than its expenses, and you make money.
Hmm. Totally. So let's say maybe like someone who's 18, maybe entering college, just out of high school. How would you recommend for them to be able to start jumping and trying this out on their own? Like maybe potentially one thing that comes to mind is renting a unit somewhere and running an Airbnb business out of it, as long as they do the research to see that they can be cash positive. Or would you recommend for them to go out and start hustling and finding investors to buy a small commercial building or what have you and be able to manage that starting off? What what
Neither.
what would you do in this market now that you would have done maybe when you were 18?
When you're 18 years old, go have fun. Jeez, I mean, you put way too much pressure on yourself. At 18 years old, I could barely take care of myself, let alone go out and buy properties and do all this stuff. Look, there's time for that, right? And I'm not saying, wait until you're 30 or 50, right? But at 18 years old, if you're in college, go have fun. Go,
Hmm.
don't be too stupid, but go have fun learn, read, do things, go and maybe go join a real estate investment club or something like that.
Hmm.
But to go and do anything other than to enjoy life when you're 18 and is to me, it's just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just a different generation. I mean, what kind of pressure do you put on yourself? Yeah, you're gonna if you're already thinking like that, you're gonna be okay. I promise you. If you're already thinking, "She's at 18, I should
Hmm.
be getting investors and I should be doing this kind of stuff and I should be waiting," you will be okay. So slow down, take a deep breath, go have some fun with your friends. There will be time to go bust your ass for the rest of your life once you get through this.
Totally. Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is because Gen Z is just not seeing so much value in college anymore.
Yeah,
Because actually the unemployment rate right now for Gen Z is 14%. And like I just met someone who just graduated in psychology and she works at Domino's because she can't get a job,
yeah,
right? And all of her friends are the same thing. And specifically the Gen Z generation, they're so business focused and want to have their own business and they don't want to work for anyone. Like 70% of Gen Z want to have their own business. And it's like the largest generation that is business focused as well. And they don't want to work for anyone. And they want to be able to retire as early as possible to be able to be free. So that's why I was just asking because a lot of people aren't going to college anymore, or at least university, because they don't see the value. They're more in trade now because there's a AI evolution that's happening, and a lot of people are just not getting the entry level jobs.
right. Well, I mean, look, once again, it comes down to the same thing. And not to, to upset your listeners, your Gen Zers who out there, but quite frankly, just because you want to do it doesn't mean you're going to do it, right? I mean, that's just,
Hmm.
right. You have no credibility, you have no background, you have no, right. Just wanting to do it isn't going to do it. And by the way, if your group doesn't want to go work for people, who are you going to have as employees for you?
Hmm.
Right? Do you think you're gonna get you're gonna get somebody who's gonna come work for you that's got 20 years of experience when you haven't done anything? And so I appreciate I appreciate people not wanting to work for people, but quite frankly, how can you ever hire people and how can you ever have people work for you if you don't know what it's like to work for somebody else?
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
so I do think, right, because by the way, you're gonna buy a piece of property. And that's the nice thing with real estate, by the way. If you have money, you can buy anything you want, right? You can
Hmm.
go and do it. As ultimately you're gonna if you want to scale, you're gonna have to have employees.
Hmm.
So back to your friend who is a psychology major who's now working at Domino's. To me, I would say, hey, listen, instead of worrying about how you're going to build up your own business, go through Domino's management training program for a year. See what that's like, right? Get some
Definitely.
training, get some background. And by the way, it's a great business? Owning Domino's, right?
Hmm.
It's like McDonald's makes millions of years, like so there's one thing, right? You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, well, I can't find a job." Yes, my daughter, my daughter graduated with a UI and UX degree, computer science, right? And I was
Hmm.
one, and I'm the jerk who told her when she first started school that it was a great major to go into. Right?
Totally.
Yep.
Yep.
Going to UI UX. It's gonna be phenomenal. You're gonna come out because when she started college, I couldn't find any UI UX people for any of our software companies, right? So
Totally.
right, we were getting do that, do that, do that. So I'm the jerk who told her to go do that. Well, guess what? She graduated a year ago. How many UI UX jobs are available here in the United States for kids who are just graduating from college?
Almost
Zero.
zero.
Zero. Right. So I'm the jerk now who told her to go do this, have her do this. And now she has to pivot.
Hmm.
So once again, back to this advice to the Gen Zers and people who want to be an entrepreneur. By the way, if you think that any day, any 2 days are the same, you're out of your friggin' mind. So
Hmm.
you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to take the punches, right? I don't want to go out and, when I first started my first business, I didn't want to go do the accounting at night. But guess
Hmm.
what? I had to.
Yep.
I didn't want to go to Sam's Club to buy the supplies for the office, but I had to, right? So you have to do things you don't want to do.
That builds character.
Absolutely. And it's going to make you a better person going forward. A person who goes through high school, has no basis of running a business or anything around it.
Hmm.
Be an entrepreneur. I love it. Go start something, right? Go spend some time. If you're so dead set on doing it, go start, yeah, a side hustle
Hmm.
and get that going. Then say, you know what? Now I'm committed. I now know enough to go do it on my own.
Great advice. Yeah. Like for me, I was the product of the Great Recession, and I graduated in 2010, and I was very interested in business, and my mom kind of pushed me in the direction of nursing just because there's always an opportunity or there's always a job that's available. It's not my passion,
Right.
but I kind of sucked it up and did what I needed to do at the same time. Manage a coffee shop. I helped open up a coffee shop, manage the team. And then that's where I started getting my footing on entrepreneurism. And it was just a test. And then I knew which direction that I wanted to go. And my parents aren't entrepreneurs. They're just, it's a worker, and, in the cog in the machine. So I don't have the ability to kind of build off of that. But
Smart advice.
and it changed my experience 100% and my whole life and my trajectory. And like what you said for the Gen Z person that has to work at Domino's with a undergrad degree, like take that opportunity and learn
Yep.
whatever that might be.
You've already spent those 4 years, right? And you probably had fun. Hopefully you had fun which is comes back to my point, right? That's it go back to that point of college, right? If you're 18, you're going to college, go have fun.
Hmm.
Go to a school with a big football program if you like that kind of stuff, school spirit or whatever, something that, whatever floats your boat, the school that you want to go to, enjoy that, embrace that. But quite
Totally.
frankly, no, when you come out of there, right, there's not going to be, you're not going to, the recruiters aren't going to be sitting there trying to grab you, bring you up, right? So just be aware of that, right? So you can go two paths. Your path was brilliant, right? Go into a field that you can go anywhere in the world
Hmm.
and be employed, right? And you can go start your own business. So you have your ability to go do two things. So uh, for those Gen Zers, you come out, embrace what you're going to get, but find the opportunity. Be the entrepreneur. You want to be an entrepreneur? Go into Domino's. I guarantee you, if you push hard and you drive, you'll be a manager. You'll own Domino's. I mean, these are great business. These are great
Totally.
entrepreneurial businesses. But you might want to learn what it's like to be an employee so that you're a better employer.
Every day, someone is turning their idea into a business. The only question is, will it be you or will you keep watching from the sidelines? At Peer Founder, you can create a free account and launch a free campaign today. Unlock $500 to kickstart your business. No credit checks, no gatekeepers. Spots are filling fast. Don't wait another day. Head to peerfounder.com and start building your future now. Exactly. Exactly. And that's why one reason I started working when I was 14, like,
Yeah.
because I wanted my own money and then, of course, experience.
Yeah.
Great. So you've also launched tech platforms that change the commercial real estate landscape. What gap did you see exactly that made you confident technology was the answer?
I think in a lot of cases, technology is the answer. I
Mm,
think the key is adapting technology to the user. Right. So I think that was sort of the key is understanding. And don't forget, I come from a perspective of I'm the end user as well. Right. So when I build software, it's going to be for a middle-aged guy who doesn't have a lot of technology experience, right? I want some, which is why AI is the most fascinating and most wonderful thing in the world, right? It's there's finally technology that somebody can understand, right? So I don't have to code, I don't have to SQL, I don't have to do all of this stuff. I can just type it in and have conversations with it. So that's how we've spent our business and how we have done things. We've looked at needs in the market, things that could be accomplished with technology, but still put services forward to help sell, help close the deal, and help onboard and have success with the user. Commercial real estate does not exist with just a simple software onboarding and you go, right? It's you've got to be there. You've got to help them. You've got to show them the use cases because the industry is a fairly slow adopter of technology.
totally. Yeah. And you kind of brushed on AI. So AI is creeping into the everyday industry. How do you see AI reshaping decision making in real estate over the next 5 to 10 years?
Is going to absolutely change it. I think we are going in full bore on AI. Our development budget is almost 95% AI. And because we see the benefit. Now, get rid
Hmm.
of all the hoopla, right? Get rid of all the noise, right?
Yes.
The $1 trillion valuations and this and that and all this other stuff, right? It's not about, yeah, OpenAI and all these
Hmm.
things, these fantastic things, right? And just the technological wonders of the world. But I've said this, I think there are in my lifetime, there are two modern miracles that I've witnessed that I get to be a part of, and they're coming out at the same time. AI is one, and you're in the medical world, so you know what GLP-1s are, and
Yep.
that's the other one, right? So
Yep.
all of a sudden, we're going to have 10 people, and they're going to use AI, and it's going to transform the world. But AI, when you get past all that noise, because everybody is sort of so I forget what the number is, and maybe you know this, but the, I think OpenAI had the number that I think they have something like 220 million users or something like that.
It's astronomical.
Yeah, but they said that out of those users, only like 0.001, some small percent. I don't know this. So quote me, don't fact check it, but
Hmm.
it was alarming that I noticed it that some small percentage or the vast majority of people use OpenAI and ChatGPT like a search
Hmm.
engine, like Gemini. And so they're not really using the capabilities of it. And so when we start to think about AI and how I start to think about AI is mission critical, mission specific, easily consumable technology that solves a use case in real estate. And I think the users will understand it and they'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is absolutely incredible. And also just kind of seeing, do you think there's an AI bubble at all forming right now? Or do you think there's still room for expansion as far as investing in AI? Because I've seen a few companies personally that have created something specific for AI, and then ChatGPT rolls out the feature, and then poof, that valuation goes to zero for that company essentially.
Yeah, and it could be right. I mean, these are high risk, high reward industries, right? I mean, anytime you get into something like this, I mean, this is like, yeah, this is like Bitcoin, right? I mean, it's just, I
Hmm.
mean, you really there's a lot of risk associated with it. Where I see the opportunity is really, and yes, there could be a bubble and everything that's associated with it, right? You've got everything from chips to electrical to nuclear power plant, everything else in between, right? But I don't worry about that stuff. That's I'm not smart enough, nor do I have the capability to worry about this. What I do know is that I can, and in our own business and the software that we have delivered now, we take off of a foundational model, right? And we basically create these agents, these bots that understand these rules within a commercial real estate organization, right? So inside a real estate organization, you have a asset manager that runs the asset. You have a finance manager that runs the finances, maybe the debt. You have this person and this person, right? And they're all different people. But
Hmm.
these real estate shops are so lean and so tight, and everybody's traveling because properties are all over the place
Hmm.
that it's hard to get them to work together unified way. And so if you have to ask a question to your asset manager, and if it goes on to finance, well, you have to ask both of them. And now with AI, we just ask one. I just ask my lobby AI, what is this? How do I do this? And more importantly is once people start to realize how to really use it, not as a search
Hmm.
engine, but actually have it, hey, what do I need to know? Like that's always
Hmm.
my question. Like, what do I need to know? What do I need to ask you to get the answer that I want or what I want you to do? And once you start doing that, the power is huge. It's absolutely huge.
Totally. Art, have you created your own AI bots? How have you done that? And just kind of explain a little bit further for people that are listening.
Yep. We have so we pivoted. Was that we pivoted? I hate that word pivoted, but we changed. We used to be a business intelligence solution for commercial real estate. So we take all their financial information in, and it's all secure in their own place. And we take their loan information, their equity information, all this information. We put it in our data warehouse, map it, and do all that kind of stuff. And then we would deliver a tool that was a BI tool. Think of it like a Tableau or something like that, Power BI, where they would make widgets and stuff like that. Well,
Hmm.
first of all, you needed to have technical capability to do that. And then you had to know what you wanted to ask it in order to do it. And so when we started doing this, we said, this is when we started seeing AI a couple of years ago. We were like, this is it to be able to do it. So what we did was we took all of the skill set of our knowledge of our data and utilized that knowledge to
Hmm.
become bots, right? So now we have bots that can read income statements and read your income statement and read your cash flow projections and read your mortgage and your note and your derivatives, whatever it is, your all that kind of stuff. Our bots can now do that. We use a foundational model to help us, OpenAI's foundational model, and
Hmm.
then but we partition it off so that it's secure. Your data is staying in your place, but you're using not only the exponential benefit of a big open model,
Hmm.
but your own specific knowledge and real estate knowledge. So you wait. So within we get a customer, they're onboarded in less than 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, they're now having deep conversation, deep success, deep value with this lobby AI. It's quite remarkable. I've never seen adoption and value creation so quickly out of any other software that I've ever built.
Wow. That's really cool. I personally have just started using AI employees, so AI bots,
Yeah.
trying Sintra, and one of them is my social media. I have it strategize, it posts for me, I approve, and it's just kind of working in the background. I have a virtual assistant that gives me a detailed list of what like I need to do that day, all the emails, follow-ups, and I'm just plugging right on through. It's really fun. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Which one do you use? Which one do you use? Centra, you said?
Yes, I'm trying out Sintra right now. I literally just started like last week.
Do you like it so far?
It's interesting. It seems a little too cartoonish a little
Yeah.
bit to me.
Yeah.
And so Motion's another one that I want to kind of give a try to. And then there's a few other ones that you can build out like super custom and integrate, but the cost is just a little too aggressive for me right now to give it a try. But it's interesting to see how it's integrating and everything like that. I wish there was more integration in ChatGPT so I could just use ChatGPT and just use one location. But yeah, it's getting interesting.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think from an entrepreneur standpoint, right? It's like there's nobody better than AI. There's no better. I mean, what you can do nowadays, right? It's right before I got on this call, I had an email come over from somebody that we've been working with, and they had some questions. They were trying to do something. I'm like, in the old days, I would have had to look at it. Hey, send it to marketing, do this, do all this other stuff. Now it's like, there you go. All this stuff comes back and it's better than I could possibly do. I mean, it's such a leverage of your own self and time and ability. It's just, yeah, I think from an entrepreneur standpoint, if I had this 25 years ago, I don't know where I'd be today.
Totally, totally. I was able to create my entire platform full stack with multiple different features using Lovable, so vibe coding, in a matter of 2 weeks when Lovable kind of first came out. And so it wasn't perfect and only $40. I chopped off like $100,000 of developing, and I chopped off 9 to 12 months of development as well.
Yeah.
So it's just incredible. The
Yeah.
value is just incredible.
But it comes down to knowing how to use it, right? And I think that's going to
Exactly.
be, and that's the big thing for people now is you've got to know how to use it. And you can get down the rabbit hole. And entrepreneurs are probably the worst at this too, right? And because we're naturally curious, right? And
Hmm.
so we want to, so you get on something like Rundown University, which I had to stop getting on it because Rundown University, are you familiar with them?
I am not.
So Rundown University is basically a platform that helps educate people on all these different tools and bots and all this other stuff, right? So, and they got me so quickly, like one email blast, or like, hey, you can do this, this, and this, and learn how to do these bots. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm going to do it because I'm going to learn how. And then they do it every day, so then you become overwhelmed, right? And then you get fatigued because there's like hey, there's only so many things you can do. But that's the only challenge with AI is that there's so many things you can do,
Hmm.
and for us that are naturally curious, we're going to go down these rabbit holes, but being able to utilize and knowing how to utilize one or two bots and how to utilize, I think Gemini, the full stack Gemini, is phenomenal, right? It's just so powerful.
Totally.
But from a business standpoint, and that comes back, and that's where there's opportunities for companies like mine where you're not going to load your financials into Chat GPT,
Hmm.
right? Because it's that now it becomes, first of all, it's unrealistic that you're going to keep on doing that every day and adding the financials, but it's also it comes down to security and also data normalization and a whole bunch of other things. So a lot of the things that we try to do as a business is coming down to educating people of why we're not just Chat GPT or
Definitely.
actually the big engine that you don't see is this big data warehouse and all the data and all that other stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Had to definitely protect your IP for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Well, cool. Fun little conversation about AI. That was really fun. Let's jump into agriculture and sustainability. So, beyond buildings, you're deeply involved in sustainable agriculture. What originally drew you into this space?
So once again, observant entrepreneur. So bought a farm, wanted to become a farmer. And I guess that's apparently when you buy a farm, you get to become a farmer. And I just did it because I wanted a tractor and I like equipment and stuff like that. But in reality, it was we have crops. And so I have a farm manager. He comes to me, he's like, okay, we need to go put this stuff on our ground. Like, what is this stuff we have to put on? Because I really don't want, because I live here. I don't want chemicals. It's just fertilizer. It's NPK and all this other stuff, lime and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, we'll go do it. And we spent X amount of money to go do it. Spent a lot of, I mean, spent a good amount of money doing it. We had tractors all over the place, people all over the place doing all this stuff. And at the end of the year, we cut our crops, or at the end of the season, we cut our crops, and it was effectively a break even.
Mm.
I'm like, well,
Hmm.
why would I want to do this? And they're like, well, and I started looking at it more and more. The reason that we had to put stuff into our ground was because our ground is pretty much dead. There's no
Interesting.
living
Yeah.
microorganisms in our farmland. And it's not because of anything other than the fact that it's hard to be a farmer. And that's my first and foremost. Like, being a farmer is
Totally.
harder than being an entrepreneur. There's so many things you have to do, and you're out of your control. But at the end of the day, that's how they lived, right? You put stuff on, you take it off, and the margin that you got was what you lived on. And unless you're really super big ag and they were doing a whole bunch of different stuff,
Hmm.
normal farmers that are feeding us are basically killing the soil. And
Hmm.
so I said, you know what? I've got to figure out something. So I know that healthy soil has microorganisms in it. It's got fungi in it. Hey, dig it up. It looks like dirt, right? And
Yep.
it's soil, right? Dirt is
Yeah.
dirt,
Black gold.
right? Black gold, right? There's earthworms, there's living creatures, there's stuff in it. My soil, you can't even, yeah, I mean, we do basically compaction testing, and it's the
Hmm.
worst job in the world. And it's only because I'm 185 pounds that I'm the guy who has to do it because I have to lift up and push down to do it. And so our soil is so compacted and there's nothing living there. The crops can't grow down, the roots can't grow down. Long story about why I did this. I figured out a way, and sorry, let me rephrase this. I am working on research in order to create a business that is going to come up with the microorganisms and the fungi, the proper nutrients that go into soil that will be purchased just like our farmers buy NPK, these fertilizers and amendments. And that is my goal. So we've set on a 2-year research project where we've got scientists and researchers coming up here. We've got our fields, we've laid them out, and we're trying all sorts of different things. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is get the microorganisms into a form where we can then produce them at scale and sell them.
Interesting. Interesting. That sounds like some really cool work.
It's really cool, and it's what's fun is that you get to cross all sorts of things, right? It's entrepreneurial, right? Because at the end of the day, in order for it to be sustainable, I got to be able to pay for it, right? And that comes down
Hmm.
to these businesses, right? And so to me, sustainable means you've got to have income coming in that's greater than your expense. Otherwise,
Hmm.
you can't keep on doing it. And so that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to create a business to do it so that it is sustainable, that we can do it. So we're actually filming and we're doing a behind the scenes
Mm,
of actually everything that's going on trying to start this business. So if you're interested in entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurship, you can see all the questions I'm asking, right? How do I do this? What does it look like? Pro formas, business plans, all this other stuff. But at the same point, we're ultimately trying to solve a worldwide problem and epidemic, which is our soil is dead. Our
hmm.
we have dirt. We don't have soil.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And out of curiosity, are you growing monoculture or multicultural for plants that your crops or anything like that? Have you played around with that so far yet?
Yeah, so we're doing a whole bunch of different things, right? So cross crops, we're so we have 9 test beds where we are doing everything from a mixture of soil down composition,
Hmm.
crop above composition, mixture of the two, basically everything, and everything but putting chemical and fertilizers.
Cool. Yeah, it's quite interesting because if you kind of think about like a rainforest, right? Or even just a forest outside, like there's not a single just plant that's growing, right? It's all mixed together. There's multiple animals that are a part of that ecosystem and they all play together one on one with each other. And when the monocropping comes in, it just creates death essentially.
Right.
It's not sustainable. It doesn't help out the environment and the animals that are living around there too.
And what people do to mask that, right, is they think they're doing it by either doing cover crops, which we do, right? So cover crops, which is just putting different types of crops in. And that's a good practice because that just adds organic matter into the soil.
Hmm.
And if you're doing the right thing, we do a lot of radishes and stuff like that because we have a compaction problem. So we're trying to break that soil. But absolutely, I mean, the crop rotation is key, multi-species within. I mean, look, you can go to a lot of people, we live up here in Virginia and Western Virginia near West Virginia border, and it's there are a lot of deer hunters up here. Well,
Hmm.
deer hunters know where the best crop fields are because that's where all the animals are, right? I mean, that's where you know who has good crops and who has good fields when you see a lot of deer in that area, right? It's just like, and so but being able to see that and be observant at it. And
Hmm.
so we've realized like the industry is really in agriculture, it almost seems like there's almost 2. It's like really divided. You're either really big ag
Hmm.
or you're sort of grassroots, roll up our sleeves and do it. And I think that's great, but that's hard, right? You're sort of there on your own, and if you go away, it's not sustainable. So we're really trying to push that message into the sustainable side.
Cool. That's really awesome work that you're doing. I was actually in a conference, an entrepreneur conference last week in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and there was a founder that founded a marketplace for farmers and for people who want local food to be able to connect and to be able to sell and buy the products that they're looking for rather than, the supermarket where it's coming from Mexico
Yep.
and it's being picked really early and it has no nutritional value essentially.
Yep. It's a great concept. Think because too, there's also from a farmer, if you have a farm in the middle of nowhere, right? And how do you get people to know your product, right? And that's right. If I have the greatest, I raise pasture raised, whatever you name it, right? And I want people to see this, right? And the end consumer, in many cases, wants to come up and see your farm. Well, that platform is what a great way to cross, right? To get both working together. And that's going to that starts the movement, right? I mean, already you go in, there was a time where if you wanted real grass fed milk and finish, right? It wasn't just grass fed and it had to be grass fed and finished milk. You had to go to like Whole Foods.
Hmm.
Now you can go in almost any grocery store and get it. So I think the market is slowly starting to adapt to that. But as a consumer, you also have to be prepared to pay $12 for a dozen of free range pasture raised eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up very rural in Michigan. And so every time I go home to visit, I buy up all the eggs that I can find.
It's funny. I was telling you, we have people coming up to the farm this weekend from Charlotte. and these are our good friends. Around here, the market price for I mean, they're all free range, they're all pasture because they're all run. I think the market value for a dozen eggs is anywhere between $3 and $5. And so our friends who are coming up from Charlotte, they're all going up there with that same concept that they're going to come in, they're going to collect all these eggs, and they're going to go down there and make money. And it's funny though, it's like firewood, right? I mean, firewood, we practically give it away, right? It's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
I got a tree down, come get it, and yet I can bring it down to Charlotte and sell it for a couple $100 a cord.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. The supply and demand piece, right?
Well, then when you're an entrepreneur, you figure out how to bridge. So, right, supply and demand is always good when you got somebody who's making a little bit of a vig on either side.
Definitely. Definitely. Very cool. And then how does your experience in commercial real estate inform the way you approach agriculture?
I don't know. I don't know if it does. That's a tough one. I should have probably read the questions. I think commercial real estate is, same thing. It's supply demand.
Hmm.
Agriculture, I think, is, to me at least, it has a probably a more personal feeling to it.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, this is my land. I love it. I mean, this is, I've told my wife, I've told her, I'm like, you're burying me here. This is my, this is where I am, and this is where I'm at home. And so it's very personal. Whereas a bit, building, I walk in the building, I'm like, okay, we need
Hmm.
to fix this, and and all this. So it becomes basically, go back to what I said in the beginning. What's the difference between residential and commercial real estate? Like, agriculture for me is with the heart. I'm trying to
Hmm.
make it with the brain, but it's really a lot with the heart. Um, Whereas, real estate is really with the brain.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's almost kind of blending the approach together because you're running a business and then you have that heart and it's literally your ground and you're putting your hands and getting it dirty and just playing around with it.
Right.
It's
It's
very
probably like if
personal.
Yeah, so probably like if I lived in one of my buildings, I probably would make sure it's really well kept, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and I do keep my buildings well kept, but it's here. This is my home, right? My farm is also my home. So, and it is important, but it also comes down we know that we have a food crisis here in our country. We know that,
Hmm.
eating healthy is important, and even with GLP-1s, right? It's
Hmm.
important to eat healthy and find nutrition. So, and that starts with agriculture.
Yeah, I think there was just a study released a couple months ago that like 51% of all Americans eat ultra high processed foods as the majority of their diet, which is just crazy to me. But when you live in a food desert and all that you have access to are Cheetos,
Yeah. Well,
kind of
it's hard though. I bet if you looked at that study too, I think the shocking and most depressing part about that though is that the those areas, if you look at the population, the percentages of obesity and all that stuff, not to go off of our entrepreneurial topics here, but in reality, you look at it, a lot of these places are in rural areas where
hmm.
there are farms.
Totally.
There are fresh vegetables, right? There's,
Yep.
it's not like people here, our neighbors have acres. They have the land to grow. And so it's a tragedy that we still eat ultra high processed foods. Now, that's not to say that I don't do it at all. I do it, of course, but it's moderation.
Totally. Yeah, I mean the issue too is when you go to the supermarkets, what's the percentage of ultra processed foods versus the fresh stuff, right? Like it's hard.
Very hard.
And people's knowledge is not necessarily there and they don't know to go to the farmer next door. Like my family, we always buy like an entire cow that we know from a family that we know and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well,
Out of curiosity, you already brought this up. There's a tension between profitability and sustainability. How do you balance those priorities in your ventures? And then are you at this point of profitability with your farm at all yet? Or are you still figuring things out?
yeah, no, the farm is definitely not profitable. And I'm fortunate I have the luxury that I'm trying to make it right. And
Hmm.
that's sort of the goal of this, right? It's the goal is, if I can figure out how, by adding these amendments, and I can make the soil better so I don't have to keep on doing it. I don't have to add stuff into the soil every year in order for it to regenerate and grow, then we'll save money. But you have to look at what is the ultimate goal,
Hmm.
right? And I think if people have different goals for different things, right? When I first started my first business, I think the first thing was hey, don't screw it up. Make enough money so that you can support your family, right? And don't,
Hmm.
and if people told you you couldn't do it, well, you know what? Go watch Rudy a couple hundred times and you'll do it, right? And so that's what, that was important. The second business was, hey, I want to see if I could do it again.
Uh-huh.
The third business was, well, I want to see if I can make more money than I did before, right? And then,
Hmm.
the fourth one was, hey, I just want to do it, right? So
Hmm.
this business, though, with the farming is just to see. It's because it stimulates curiosity, right?
Hmm.
Any stuff. I'm not. If you look at my background, I have a finance major, right? I'm finance background, commercial real estate, right? I understand trading, I understand derivatives and interest rates, like all that stuff. I can't I can't pronounce a lot of the words that these soil scientists are coming back with. But I'm learning, I'm trying to learn, right? And once again, where AI has helped exponentially is, one of my favorite prompts. Explain this to me like I'm in kindergarten, right?
Definitely.
So, and that helps. But this to me is about, I believe that the mission is not necessarily just about saving our soil, but that is it's an honorable mission. But also, can I do it so that others will do it as well?
Totally. Absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. And then final question about agriculture. What role do you think entrepreneurs will play in solving global food security challenges?
I think once again, it comes with the why. Why are they doing it, right? If you have somebody who's doing it because they want to make money, that's okay. But yeah, I think you've got to have a little bit more in you to solve this, right? I think I think these are big things. And doing my research and starting this Finlay biodiversity, the soil stuff that we're doing, the regenerative agriculture. I've seen this new world of ag venture and all these. I mean, all these other things. It's fascinating. It's great. But I think if you're an entrepreneur and you're passionate about it, yes, you probably will solve it, right? But figure out a way, just like the guy you met, right? He solved it by, not creating new water culture, whatever. He solved it by helping business transact, right? Creating a Craigslist for animals
Hmm.
and farms.
Hmm.
So I think it's going to takes it's go- this is not just one person. This is not just the one thing going to solve. It's going to take a lot of people, and a lot of people, a lot of thought, a lot of change in order to do it. Because you're changing. You've got farmers who've been doing this for generations.
Totally.
It's gonna be hard to change their minds.
Yeah, it's a big learning curve because everything that they were taught from a very young age when they took over that farm from their parents, right? Like now everything's thrown out the window and they feel like they're not doing it right because of the monoculture and the soil or the dirt is dead and all
Yeah.
of that. And the process is much different.
Yeah, and I don't blame farmers, by the way. I mean, I'm a huge supporter of farming. I think it's the most honorable job, or one of the most honorable jobs out there. It's very difficult, and you grew up in a rural, and so you understand it's hard. It's
Hmm.
really hard. So I don't blame them. There's a whole bunch of different factors that go into it that you can't blame anybody. It's a lot of things. A lot of people, a lot of things went into killing our earthworms.
Totally. Yeah. And it seems like the fertilizer industry, like Monsanto, and then being able to sue farmers because that individual seed went to someone else's farm just sounds a little crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a big business, right? I mean, you have to
Hmm.
look, and I think that's the hard part, right? I think you look at it's all things, right? I think we unfortunately in ag, if somebody says farming, right, you think of something, right? You think of the farm down the street. At least I do, right? A little farm down the street.
Hmm.
If you say ag, right, what do you think? I think of the big ag, right? Big ag, and then
Hmm.
we're all agriculture. We're all, yeah. But I think it comes down to how people are trying to do business, and people don't realize how big agriculture and big ag is, as well as how big these farms, these big farms are big operations, big
Totally.
equipment, millions of dollars of equipment and costs, and they're going on razor thin. They're margins that interest rate and government traders work off of, right? They're so tiny.
Hmm. Yeah, crazy. We're at your rapid fire break.
Okay,
So we have like five different questions. Are you ready? Just
sure.
like a one worded answer, the shortest as possible, right? What book changed your life aside from your own?
Okay. Who
Who?
who Ho WHO, who
Cool.
it's a book on hiring people.
I think we talked about that before. Yes. Best piece of advice you've ever received:
Don't give up.
coffee, tea, or something stronger when you're working late.
Depends on what day. Probably something stronger.
Okay. If you had to start a new business tomorrow with zero connections, what industry would you jump into?
Commercial real estate,
And what's one skill every founder should learn?
listening,
That's definitely a good one because a lot of people like to do this.
especially
Cool.
entrepreneurs and founders.
Yes,
We love hearing ourselves talk. Look at these podcasts. I come on. I like you look at the percentage. I spoke 92% of the time. So, you know,
totally. Well, this is the platform for you to speak, right? Not for me to speak. Okay, so next, we're talking about your authorship and personal impact. So you've written two bestsellers, Beyond the Building and Hey Dad. What did writing teach you about leadership that building businesses didn't?
I think that the thing about writing books that's different than entrepreneurship is really, I think when I was an entrepreneur is very reactionary, right? You did things quick, right? A client needed something, and so you had to really focus on getting things done. Whereas when you write books, especially when it's not like I had an agent, right? And a lot of people don't realize the stuff on writing, right? You write a book, hopefully somebody buys it, right?
Hmm.
And or somebody reads it and somebody buys it and somebody reads it, right? And so it was really you have to sort of do it on your own. So you have to be sort of dedicated to spending some time and doing it. But I think what was interesting with writing books was it actually triggers more of a creative side to your brain than you can imagine. And so it
Mm,
actually helps being an entrepreneur because I think writing, being creative is a really good way for you to be a better entrepreneur, a better business.
it's almost like exercising a different portion of your brain so that it's accessible when you're going through these hard, difficult problems of creating a business.
Yep. Yep. Or you're able to see things that maybe you didn't because you're out there. And so learning how to doodle or learning how to paint. I can't draw, I can't do anything. So like, yeah, I'll write.
Cool. And then let's talk about your book, Hey Dad, was inspired by your role as a father.
Yes.
How did that process differ emotionally from writing a business?
It was so much more enjoyable than writing a business book, right? So writing a business book, you're just sort of talking about business and all that stuff,
Hmm.
right? And hopefully people found that there were some good things in it that they could take away and learn and apply to their own business. But with Hey Dad, it was meant I didn't realize that people would actually read it, right? And it became a USA Today bestseller, and it was really fascinating because I was like, I looked at it, I wrote it purely from my heart. I was just like, this was all I wanted to do is just give something to my kids. I was like, here, I just want you guys to have this because you don't necessarily listen to me all the time. So here would be a nice way for you to have it. But what really was inspiring is that I'm actually getting people who reach out to me and message me and like, hey, I read this, or hey, I gave this to you name. I gave it to my granddaughter, my grandson. But what I did was I actually wrote in it. I actually changed some of the things around. I hope that's okay. And I'm like, of course it is. Passing advice from one generation to another is critical, right? That sense of family unit, that sense of community isn't always here.
Hmm.
And so being able to give that to somebody, letting somebody give that information and put their own personal advice in, that's what made it made it the whole world.
That's really cool. How did you market a book? Because, of course, there's so many moving pieces, and it's kind of like who you know, industry, and different things. Out of curiosity, for anyone that might be writing a book, what did you do in order to get your books out there in
I
people's
took a
hands?
had an education in publishing, right? So here's my thing. If you are a well-known, famous person and you're
Hmm.
writing a book, go to a big publisher and and a big PR firm, right? And you'll be okay. If you're not those things, which I'm not, right?
Hmm.
I wasn't, right? So what you have to do is you have to learn how to market and how to sell. And that's basically what you do with a book. Your book is your product.
Hmm.
And you have to do things. And we actually learned coming back to applying things from being an entrepreneur, things like click testing, right? What are people clicking on? What are people interested in? Social media channels, right? Is that, oh, TikTok, which I was never on TikTok because it's sort of out of my demographic. Well, guess what? Our book and our stuff does actually fairly well on TikTok, right?
Cool.
It's about learning different things and different methods. And so, but for somebody who's writing a book, right? I would encourage you to write it. Um, I would say don't be prepared. It's not a glamorous, right? To be a bestseller, even at a New York Times or a USA Today, these are not big numbers, right? So
Hmm.
people unfortunately just aren't reading a lot. But
Hmm.
for people who are writing things that are maybe fiction, maybe you think about doing a narrative podcast or doing something that's more the way that people consume information now, right? Or people consume stuff. They want
Mm.
right? And so for somebody who's writing that book, maybe you do it as a podcast instead of a book.
Interesting. Interesting. That's a cool concept that I haven't heard of.
Yeah, yeah.
Meet
I'm
meet
actually
people where they're at.
yeah, I'm writing so I've got 3 books that are coming out in the next few months, and one is it's Beyond the Building, the second edition of Beyond the Building. So that one I'll go through normal channels, but one of them is actually going to be a narrative podcast. So the one with the sounds and stuff because it's a fiction
Hmm.
and it's entertaining. And but to write a book, it's a lot easier and you have more chance of getting it out of the mainstream by going onto a podcast.
Hmm. Interesting. Very interesting. Cool advice. And then writing requires a discipline in a different way than scaling a company. And you touched on this a little bit. What was your writing routine like, or is like, because you're writing 3 books?
So it's really good in the beginning when I'm thinking of the idea, right? So I'm like on it, right? Just on it, just every chance I can, I'm writing. Then you go through this long lull of I don't want to do it, 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 to spurts of I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to do it. Get it done, write a little bit more. So I think a lot of it just comes back to it. It comes down to the time, it comes down to the season, it comes down to other things, right? And so as a non-professional author, right, I don't make my
Hmm.
living out of being an author. So I'm very fortunate that I don't have an agent or a publisher coming out saying, hey, you need the book. Yeah, I want the book
Due
by
date.
right, here's your due date. I almost wish I had. Those were self-imposed due dates, and there were some cases where I did grab an agent for one and traditional publishers for these 2 books, and they did set preliminary deadlines, but they're not going to right. So I really think it's so for you if you're going to write a book, do it because you want to and just be prepared. Just enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the journey. Unless you feel like you've got the next Pulitzer or a book that just people are just going to line up to, to read. If you're Stephen King, sure, write the damn, make
Right.
your millions and, and do your stuff. If you're just a regular person and think about self publishing as well. I think
Hmm.
Amazon's done a phenomenal job supporting publishers. I think that's a great way to do it. For those audiences who are watching this podcast, right? You can look above me, right? You got a
Hmm.
stack of books there, stack of books there, right? That's just those are in real estate or in entrepreneur finance terms, accounting terms, those are dead assets, right? So
All right, seriously, if you've made it this far and you still haven't subscribed, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button right now and share this with 3 friends who need a dose of founder chaos and inspiration in their lives. Don't make me come find you. And then you also touched on this a little bit too, because you've had some people outreach to you, but what feedback from readers has surprised you the
the ones that actually and so this is primarily on Hey Dad.
mm-hmm.
A lot of people come into the thing that surprised me the most was how much they appreciated the first chapter.
Mm,
And this will go back and we'll touch on what we talked about a little bit before, but the first chapter, and this wasn't just from the reader, the intended reader for Hey Dad is supposed to be from 18 to 21, right? A recent graduate going transitioning into adulthood. But the feedback, when I get feedback from people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s about the chapter one, and chapter one is all about understanding what you want to be in life and who you are, right? And sort of
Mhm.
these moments in time of your life where when I first sold my first business, I sold it. I was living high Friday afternoon. I sold it. I closed. Saturday, I was at a cocktail party and people said, "Well, what do you do?" I'm like, I used to run a business, right? And they're like, "Oh, this poor guy's unemployed," right? And you go through this depression of this crisis of what do I want to do? And
Mhm.
just like many people, just like you were talking about your friend who graduated, psychology degree is working at Domino's. It's what do they want to be? And
Mhm.
it's this that time in your life can be very, very emotional, very stressful. And the nice part is, guess what? You don't have to worry about it that much because you can figure it out. And it's not going to be it's not going to be the last time you change. It's not the time that you have to do it. So getting the feedback from that, where I get feedback from, I have feedback from a mother. She wrote me recently. And she said, "I really appreciate chapter one," and I'm like, "Okay, that's great." And I was expecting her because her kids are back home or whatever. She said, "I just dropped my last kid off to school, off to college, and I've been a stay at home mother for all of my life, for my kids adults, and they're my job was them, and now I don't know what to do." And she
Mhm.
said, "Your chapter really helped me sort of think about it and go through these practices where I can I can explore, I can be something other than who I've always thought I was." And she said it was very powerful. And I was like, that to me is like, "God, that was worth all of the hours writing the book."
Definitely. Yeah, I think that really speaks home to mothers. I know my mom also had some identity crisis when I left, right? And it was just like trying to coach her, like, you finally have all this time in the world. Now you get to finally focus on you. Like, we're all good. You did your job, and now you get to discover you in a
Yeah,
whole new way. So
but it's hard.
very cool.
Easier said than done.
Totally,
More
totally,
easier said than done, because it's like, you think about people who retired, right? You hear about it all the time. People retire, they go home, they die the next day, right? It's like, people need to have purpose, right? And I do think that's important. Ikigai is a very popular expression in Japan, but it's about having purpose and meaning in your life, and everybody needs to have it. And just because you don't feel like you have it right now doesn't mean you won't find it, right? So don't go, don't go into to despair if you don't know what your purpose is. That's okay. It's okay.
totally.
You're going to find your purpose and you're going to find it. And guess what? It might not be the right purpose first time around, but you're
Hmm.
going to find it and you'll have your entire life to keep on changing and doing it.
Life is a journey. Enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. While you can.
Yes, yes, definitely. Between being a founder and being an author, which role do you think has left a greater legacy so far? Or being a father?
Being a father. Oh, by
Okay.
far being a father. Not even close. Yeah, that's being a father, being a parent, and I would say this as a biological or, not biological, or a mentor or a support, but being there for somebody else
Hmm.
is the most important thing that you can do and is the most valuable. Giving yourself to somebody else, even if it's if it's a neighbor or it's somebody because you don't have your own kids or whatever, but giving yourself to somebody or people is one of the greatest things that you can do, and one of the most impactful things you can do. It's something that you will take with you for the rest of your life. Dollars and cents don't matter. You can't take it with you, right?
Totally.
At the end of the day, on my deathbed, do I want to say, "Hey, roll up a wheelbarrow full of money"? No. I want bring people around me that I've impacted. Bring people that I want to be in my life, and that's what I want my last bit.
Totally. And I want to kind of pull on a thread there a little bit because obviously the biggest thing in your life is being a father. What's one thing that impacted your family, your kids, that you did intentionally in order to connect with them and being a father?
I think intentionally trying to be there. I think one of the things I've done is try to be more observant, right? And be present. I think when I was and I think a lot of this I was asked this when I was doing the tour on Hey Dad. They're like, "Well, why'd you really write this book?" And one of the guys asked me, said, "Is it because you're guilty? Do you feel guilty?" And I stopped and I thought about it for a second. Yes. As an entrepreneur, starting businesses, especially with young kids,
Hmm.
do not always prioritize your kids.
Got it.
And in many cases, you prioritize the business. And I know I did. I prioritized the business and I did it falsely believing that it was okay because I'm providing for my family, right? I
Mhm.
did it under the pretense that it's okay. You don't have to be there for their games. You don't have to be there for their stuff. It's okay. Daddy's got to work so that you don't have to worry about things, right? And when I wrote the book and I came back and I said, I've got to make sure I'm really being a good parent, right? And a lot of it is I put my phone down and I call my kids and I talk to my kids, and that's what's made me, I think, a better is listening to them. It also comes back to their different stages in life, right? I don't have to
Mhm.
tell them, hey, don't, yeah, don't hit your sister, right? I don't have to, right? It's now, hey, where are you going with your life? And it
Mhm.
all leads to different changes in different times in our life. But it really is about, can I spend quality time with them? Can I connect? Am I present? I'm not just listening to them. Am I being present with them?
And what do you mean by being present? Like, let's say a father's listening and they don't feel like they have that really great connection with their kid. What do you recommend for them to do right now to change that trajectory?
Put your damn phone away, put their phone away, go have a meal with them. I saw it the other day. I was actually I was going to go over and say something. So I was sitting there. I was by myself. I was traveling, and I'm sitting at the restaurant, and I'm watching this dad, and he's got his two kids with him,
Mhm.
and both kids are on their phones. One's
Mhm.
got their earphones, like he's like they're watching videos and stuff, and he's just sitting there. I'm like, I so desperately wanted to go over there and be like, buddy, this is precious, precious time. Don't waste this. Put that
Totally.
stuff away, put your phone away, and talk to them.
Mhm.
What's interests them, right? It's and I think it's hard as parents, right? Because we're always trying to iterate and correct, right? We're just like entrepreneurs, right? We're always trying to iterate and correct and do the right things for our business. But at the end of the day, your kid's gonna be your kid, right? And they're gonna
Mhm.
do their things. And so the most important thing you can do is to know them. I mean, I'd
Mhm.
spend weeks going with customers and doing things with customers, but not spend quality time with my kids. So that's what I mean about being present.
Totally.
And it's small. Sit down, do dinner time. Come home, have dinner. Not in front of the TV, not with your phones. And don't, I don't say I'm realistic, right? It's not going to be like, okay, kids, we're not going to have any cell phones ever. We're going to all, do all this stuff. But you can say, hey guys, 10 minutes a day.
Mhm.
Let's just no phones. Let's talk. What's going on with you? And it's a judgment free zone. Tell me, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? How are you feeling about this? Right? Not always being it. As I said, it's easier when they get older, but be present.
Great advice. Great advice. And yeah, yeah, really great advice. Really awesome. We're going to jump to the fun fact. So, the fun fact is according to Deloitte survey, 80% of Gen Z want to work for companies that match their values, especially around sustainability. Rob, why do you think younger entrepreneurs are demanding value alignment more than previous generations, especially since you have kids in that category?
I think it comes down to it's just a different culture, right? I think it's just a change in the world, right? These kids are coming out, they are much more knowledgeable, they're much more exposed, right? When I graduated, I just wanted a job. That's it. I didn't, and I just needed a job. That's what you do. Now, I think it comes down to kids maybe feel like they have, or Gen Zers feel like they have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more option with it. But I think it'll be interesting, Colin, if we see how long this stays, right? Yes, I
Hmm.
want a company that's going to have my values and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, I also need a job,
Hmm.
right? How long am I going to be living in mom and dad's basement, right? How long will I be able to have my girlfriend if I have to bring her back to a place where I have 8 roommates, right? It comes down to those kind of things, right? It's so I do believe that it's as we evolve as a country and as a society, I think companies also are evolving and saying, here are our core values and here's what's important to us,
Hmm.
right? Whereas before, you would never say that in your business, right? It's this is what we do. Here's my product. Here's how I sell it. And this is why you buy it. Not about, hey, we care about sustainability. We care about our people.
Hmm.
So I think that sort of it just becomes more of it's it's more known today than ever in the past.
Totally.
But back
Well,
to my point. I don't know how long it's going to last when people start needing jobs. It's going to be right. Do you think your person cares about what is Domino's, right? What's Domino's feel on all this stuff, right? And
Totally.
quite frankly, I don't know. How do you feel like do you feel that companies should express their beliefs, their social beliefs, or do you think a business should just be a business and that's it?
I think it depends on the industry that they might be in and the trajectory that they're trying to do, because businesses can be ingenuine and what is it, greenwash their business and come out and say, oh, we love the environment, we love the environment, but on the other side they're not actually doing it. So it really depends on the integrity of the business, the person that's leading that business, and what their actual motive is in doing that, and if it's genuine or ingenuine or not. So it really comes down to what their market is, what they're trying to do, and how they're attracting their customers and then also their employees at the same time. So I think it really just depends on the business itself and who's leading.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a point to that. I personally feel like a lot of this stuff it's up to the own individual, right? So however you feel is the way you feel, right? Your beliefs,
Hmm.
whatever you do you, right? But the business, you know, people need to know when they come to job, what do they really look for? Is the company going to, yeah, provide me pay, growth, all of that kind of stuff? And from a company standpoint, we have to focus on making money, being a good employer, and
Hmm.
it comes back to supply and demand, right? If I have to do certain things, if I have to have free seltzer water in the cafeteria now because people demand that, well, if I need employees, I've got to do that.
Hmm.
I think we can go too far in one direction on that.
Totally.
Yeah, I think there's keep it. You do you. Let the company be the company.
I think it's bad business to get into politics and share politics, though,
Gotcha.
because you
Yes.
just alienate half of the entire customer base.
Everything you do, right? So that's why in business, right? I agree, right? It's like here's what we do. Here's what we can control. I don't care what you do, right? You
Hmm.
do, but but our business. If you ask me something political, I'm not going to answer you. If you ask me something, it's like here's what I care about. Because quite frankly, my belief is my belief. Your belief is your belief.
Exactly.
My belief for this company is we provide fantastic customer service. We are a great place to work. We provide flexibility. We have growth, all this stuff. That's what I can control. That's what I'm
Hmm.
going to do because that's my business.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I've had a whole bunch of friends and stuff like that be like, "Oh, politics, blah blah blah." I'm like, my social media is no politics at all. Like, I do not want to lean in any direction. Don't want anything, and I just want to support entrepreneurs in order to become entrepreneurs and for them to be successful.
Yep.
That's all
And
I care
that's
about.
that's that's the right way to do it.
Okay, awesome. So let's get to your shut up moment. So on the show, we call it the shut up moment, the leap where people probably told you to shut up because it sounded too risky or impossible. It could never happen, impossible, all that negative. But you believed in yourself, and you also shut up to yourself with all those thoughts, and hearing all of those negative thoughts. What was that moment for you, and how did it play out?
When I first was starting my first business and I had a very close person to me say, can't do it. Don't do it. You can't do it. You don't have the background. You don't have all this stuff. And every entrepreneur's heard it, right? All
Hmm.
the negativity. And I didn't listen to him. I did, and it was hard because this person was very, very, very important to me. Their blessing and their positivity could have changed my dynamic, and actually, it really was. It's something to this day I don't remember a lot. Like it's as you get to be my age, you forget a lot of stuff, but it's the one thing that I still remember. It still harbors with me. So that was one of those moments.
And how did you deal with that moment? Like, how did you process as a person? Because it sounds like that person really meant a lot to you. And I don't know if you're still even like beside them or anything like that. But how did you overcome this sensation that someone that's that close to you wasn't believing in you?
I once again I go to my favorite movie. I watch Rudy. I watch Rudy every year. I make my kids watch it. They're done watching it, but, I everybody who knows me knows I'm a huge whether or not it's entertainment value, right? I mean, the part of the story, whatever, but the movie of Rudy is one of the greatest, most inspirational movies where people are telling him he can't do it, and he had the conviction, right? Every entrepreneur, it should be a requirement for every entrepreneur, whether or not you like football, Notre Dame, or believe the story, whatever. Just watch it. Just get involved in it, and you'll realize that it is the entrepreneur's movie.
Is it? I've never seen Rudy, but is it that point where if they can do it, I can do it too, kind of situation?
Everybody told him he couldn't do it. If you haven't watched it, Colin, I'm telling you, I should have. This should have been my prep with you, right? It is the greatest movie. It's about a young. It's partially true, but Hollywood, they have to make it a little bit
Hmm.
more entertaining. But it's about a young kid who didn't get good grades, who was small, who wanted to go play for Notre Dame football because that's his dad's dream too. Right? It was his dad loves Notre Dame football. It's all he wanted to do. Everybody told him no, he couldn't because he's too small and not athletic, not smart enough, all these other things. And over his course of years, he's trying to get into Notre Dame, and which is a big enough accomplishment, right? Like that's a huge accomplishment in itself. But he went beyond that and actually ended up playing football for him and working on the practice team, made the team, worked on the practice team, and it's just such an inspirational movie. I cry every time I watch it. I know every word by now, but it is truly one of the greatest movies, and it's because everybody told him he can't do it, but he said no, I'm going to do it. Every single person said, "You can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it." And he told everybody, he showed everybody that they were wrong. So if you're having a tough time and you're feeling doubt, go watch Rudy.
Sounds good. Will do. Will do. I will add that to my list of things to watch. Great. Thank you for that. That's really, really awesome and powerful. Final section, legacy, leadership, and advice. So you've advised billions in transactions, built tech platforms that change an industry. What's the one thing you wish every entrepreneur knew before scaling?
Before that, they will fail, right?
Hmm.
You do fail, right? So it's always great to talk about your successes, but all the failures, right? The failures of hiring, right? Or poor hiring, right? I mean, as you scale a business, it really comes down to less about you and more is your ability to hire people and motivate teams, right? To become that coach, right? From that player to the coach. And I think I I hope most entrepreneurs know that that's where you're going to struggle. You are going to
Hmm.
struggle with hiring. You're going to, it's a hard thing to do. It's hard to get right.
Like the theme of failure, you have to embrace it because it's a learning process. Like you're never born and you're a perfect whatever, right? It's all learned through failure and picking it back up and trying again and embracing that. And then analyzing and just being like, what could I have done different? How can I change this in the future?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's just really impactful.
Well, I think that the thing is, as an entrepreneur, you never have a good day. You have a
Hmm.
good minute, bad minute, good minute, bad minute, good minute, bad minute, right? It's like that's your whole day, right? It's like, and just hopefully at the end of the day, there were more good minutes than bad minutes. And that's so embracing that failure, embracing that disappointment, knowing that it's going to happen. And that's hard for people, right? And just brush off, hey, you're going to do it.
Hmm.
Who cares? Who
Yep.
cares? Get up and go do it.
Totally. Totally. Don't be scared.
Be scared. It's gonna happen. It's going to happen. So
Embrace it. Out of curiosity, are you mentoring any next generation founders or entrepreneurs?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's the most common mistake you see, and how do you help them course correct?
There's a couple. I mean, that could be a whole show in itself. So one, I come out the number one thing that I see is that term I used before, the entrepreneur. The one who really doesn't want to put any risk behind it, but wants to go out and be an entrepreneur, but have you pay and raise money to cover their salaries, cover their expenses, cover all that kind of stuff. We don't touch them. We do not touch them unless you have a considerable risk associated with your business and your startup. We pass right off the bat. It's our first question. How much do you have in this venture? And if they say, well, I don't have much, I don't care. I didn't have
Hmm.
much when I first started. How much do you have? So that's it. The number two is I think unfortunately, just because the the ability to have more education. There's more content on this. It seems like these entrepreneurs are not necessarily trying to go to build a sustainable business, but making it to their first round, and then their second round, and then their third round. And so for anybody who's had to raise money as an entrepreneur, you know that you basically have taken your eye off the prize, which is your business, and focus on raising money to benefit somebody else.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times when we get entrepreneur, and I've actually had one this past 2 weeks ago where I told the founder he had a great business, loved it. I thought it was a great business. And he wanted to raise money. I'm like, why are you raising money? He's like, well, I feel like if I can raise this money, it will give me some breathing room to make it to the next to make cash flow positive. Stretch it. Go borrow, right? Why go give me equity? Why go give me your hard work for my
Hmm.
money? You're not, there's no value in it. So doing that, so really understand, build the business, focus on the business, do everything you can to focus on, pretend like there's no money out there and it's up to you to make it happen.
Totally. Totally. Thank you for that. Leadership styles evolve. How has yours shifted over time, especially from your first startup to today?
I think I mentioned this earlier. It's from coaching, right? It's like,
Hmm.
I go back to that analogy of coaching. When I first started out, I was 29 years old. All my employees were between 21 and 25. So my coaching style was much more, my leadership style was much more in the trenches, telling them exactly how to do it. And as they've grown and my businesses have evolved and the people I've hired, my coaching skill is I hire people who the expectation is that they can do the job, the Tom Brady, right? And I'm
Hmm.
just there to make sure that team is cohesive, that I give him a Julian Edelman to catch his pass.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great. And then you've built companies, written books, and invested in sustainability. Which of these do you think your kids will remember you most?
I think they'll remember me for probably more as being a father than any of this, right? I think as an entrepreneur, there's not a day that goes by that I don't have an idea or a company, right? So they've lived it, right? They this is all they know. And so I don't think that they won't look back and say, wow, dad created this great business and that's how we're going to remember him, or oh wow, he really loved his farming. I think they're going to look at me as the person and say, wow, your dad was always learning, never stood still, never stopped, cared about us, um, cared about his friends, his family, his farm, his pets. That's what he cares about, right? And that's who I think that's what they're gonna.
Cool. Love that. Love that legacy. And then are you ready for your last question?
Sure.
We're pretty lengthy, but this was pretty in depth, and we ran out of different conversations that were that were very important, and I think a lot of people would find that interesting. But looking forward, what excites you most? Commercial real estate, agriculture, writing your 3 books, or something completely new on the horizon?
Well, it's all of it. It's just learning. It's just learning. I love learning. I think there's if you're if you're a learner, if you enjoy learning things, that's what I enjoy. That's what keeps me going. It's not businesses are fun, businesses are great, but it's learning AI,
Hmm.
learning woodworking. I mean, if you go look at my YouTube history, it's everything and everything in between, right? I mean, it's everything. It's farming, it's woodworking, it's AI stuff. So it's all about learning, and that's why I get up in the morning. I get up in the morning so I can learn something.
Well, that's really positive. And I lied to you. That was not your last question. What have you learned today that's new? Just out of curiosity.
That we can actually continue talking for what has been almost 2 hours, right? So it's um yeah, I mean um look, what's exciting to see is people's different perspectives and they come from different areas. Here you are,
Hmm.
you're obviously a educated young man. You've got a lot of drive, a lot of success. You're going to go amazing places, right? And you're going to be successful. And it's fun to see it a different way where you're talking to me,
Hmm.
a guy who's at this sort of the other side of the horizon, right? Where and so I think that's what's and I can learn from you as much as you can learn from me.
Totally. Yeah. That's definitely one thing that one of the reasons why I started my podcast is I want to talk to people that have already done it. Because it's 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 incredibly scary, right? To kind of like dive in. I'm a learner as well, so I want to learn something new every single day. And who better best than talking to people that have already done it and can share those experiences, and then can share it with everyone else too. So
Yep.
really appreciate like you coming on the show and being here today, and sharing your journey. It's a really cool perspective, and also like shout out to you for being an awesome dad, and even even coming back to where you felt like you weren't there all the time and kind of making that up. So really, really awesome. Thank you. Before we wrap up,
Thank you
yeah.
for having me. And yeah, yeah. I mean, look, you went on all sides. You pulled out some deep stuff for me. So yeah,
Good, good. That's what I'm trying to do. I had to pull the strings a few times, right? But before we wrap up, where can listeners find your books, your work, and then also connect with you online?
yeah. So the best way is go to my website, which is robfinlay finlay.com, and that's where you're going to see everything that's going on. Right. You can see ag stuff, you can see business stuff, writing stuff, all of that kind of stuff, social media. You know, Instagram and all that kind of stuff. I'm on there as well. And I encourage people to reach out. I really do. As long as it's not LinkedIn where you're trying to sell me something.
Uh huh.
If you have a question, I do try to stay approachable. If people reach out, I usually try to respond, and I do like to hear feedback, good and bad. Right? I've had people say, "Boy, I really didn't like your book. You were wrong about this." Right? And it's like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, everybody gets their own opinion. I love it,
Hmm.
but but anything, if you're having, you're going through your life change and you're like, how did you get through it, Rob? Because you've had to go through it a couple of times too. How did you do it? So yeah, reach out.
Awesome.
I do enjoy it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. If everyone's listening, make sure you reach out. He has a world of knowledge, wealth of knowledge. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rob. Really appreciate it. And really, really awesome to have you on the show. I think the listeners and the viewers will really enjoy this just because of just your diverse background. It's
Well,
really
great.
awesome.
Well, thanks, Colin. I appreciate it. I really do enjoy it. It was great. It was a great couple hours here. Watch Rudy. I promise you,
Yes,
it's one of those books or one of the movies rather that is just, yeah, it's it's good.
definitely. I'm adding it to my list right now, and then I will figure out when to watch it sometime in the next few days. So
Sounds good.
I'll message you and let you know how it
Yeah,
was.
please do.
Yeah,
I'll beat you to it. I'm expecting it's football season, so it's going to be out on one of the channels anyways.
perfect.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Colin.
Rob. Thank you. What an incredible conversation with Rob Finlay, from building market leading businesses to writing books that inspire the next generation. Rob shows us what it really takes to innovate, scale, and leave an impact. This episode is brought to you by Peer Founder, the free market crowdfunding platform where entrepreneurs can launch campaigns, connect with funders, and grow their business on their own terms. Create your free account today at peerfounder.com. As always, thank you for tuning in to Startup or Shut Up. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share it with a friend who's building something big. Until next time, keep pushing forward.